أعزائنا المشاهدين، أهلا بكم حلقة جديدة من برنامج اسأل مع ميرا. النهاردة بالنسبة لي عيد وفرحة كبيرة لأن معايا His Grace Bishop كيرلس. أهلا بك يا سيدنا.
Nice to see you again.
طبعا سيدنا he is the Dean of the Theological School San Cyril and San Athanasius Act School, and also he's the General Dean, صح؟
Bishop, yeah.
Bishop, General Bishop for the education
Yes.
in Southern California, Los Angeles and Hawaii.
Yes, yes.
مظبوط. وطبعا معانا برضو فرحني جدا جدا ان احنا معانا President of نبيه يوسف Association جان بول نبيه يوسف. اهلا بيك جان بول. I'm very blessed and very happy، وزي ما قلت النهارده عيد بالنسبه لي. شكرا جدا للدعوه اللي انا دعيتكم وانتم جيتوا لي.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
a blessing.
سيدنا أنا عارفة like most of the time you travel to Italy and you have
Yes.
meetings with the Pope of Italy.
Yes.
And I know right now we are in good terms between the two churches, and thank you for you and for Sayyidina Abba Sarabium, of course. So can you tell us the latest update about the two churches, because this is a huge subject?
Sure. Well, the relationship between the churches started in a new direction with His Holiness Pope Shenouda III of blessed memory.
Yes.
In 1973. And so we celebrated 50 years of that starting of the new dialogue or the new relationship between the churches. In 2004, they started the official dialogue, and that we celebrated in January 20 years of every year we have meetings. One year we go to Rome, the other year we go to one of our churches either in Armenia or in Ethiopia or in India or in Syria or in our church.
Wow, okay.
And so this year in January we had the 20th celebration, but involved with the celebration there was a problem with a document that they published in December called Fiducia Supplicans, this document that spoke about blessing of homosexual couples. Yes. And so this we tried to make many appeals to them and have but unfortunately in the meeting we were not able to have any discussion, fruitful discussion of the meeting. And so in March the Holy Synod in our church, they met in the time of the Maroon, and they decided to stop the dialogue for two reasons. Number one, to do an evaluation of the 20 years and to see what were the things that we accomplished and which things are still missing. And the second thing, that to evaluate this change of the position of the Catholic Church on homosexuality.
So they support the homosexual?
They agreed to bless couples.
Okay.
And so we offered
inside the church?
Yeah. Well, they say that it should be outside the church and it should not be in a official capacity. It's not during. They put a lot of conditions, but unfortunately, it still led to some confusion.
Of course.
And we were asking for clarity. What does it mean? And still, until now, we still have many questions. So this is why the Synod said that we need much more clarity on this.
Of course.
And we decided that we would start meeting with the Oriental Orthodox family and to evaluate the 20 years and also to see what are their church's reactions. And this was planned for January, next January, to happen as a family, the Oriental Orthodox family, and then we prepare to see what to do with the Catholic
And what's
Church.
your feeling that going, Sayyidina? Because it sounds not good.
I mean, God willing, we need to evaluate to see if theological dialogue is the best atmosphere. Because theological dialogue means we look at documents, we come to a conclusion, and we say that we agree on this, and then we can lift the anathema and there's unity. But what has been happening instead of theological dialogue, we present our position on some issues, they present their position on some issues, and then we say we are similar in this, we are different in this. So instead of being dialogue, it's really more of mutual understanding. We understand each other better, and the relationship between the churches is also improved, which is good. We have very good relationship with the
How
churches.
far? Improved how far? Like
In terms of how we deal with each other.
Okay.
But on the issues like, say, for example, their understanding of purgatory, or the understanding of the filioque, the Holy Spirit, or the differences about the assumption of the Virgin Mary. Or there's no major change. They didn't change their position, and we didn't change our position. We just understand their position better, but
and we respect each other.
Yes, but there's no improvement where we can sign and say we have in the same faith.
Yes.
On the opposite, we find new issues coming.
Oh my God.
Like
the
so that's why we're in a critical position to see what is the best to do in the future, and that needs right now the direction of the Holy Synod.
Yes.
And of course His Holiness Pope Tawadros II, and also the other churches, Oriental Orthodox churches, to see how do we continue.
Yes.
So we're committed to the relationship with the Catholic Church, but at the same time unity in the sense where we were hoping in the past is looking more and more difficult for that level of unity.
Okay, so Sayyidina, it's not our subject, the homosexuality, but since you brought it, what is the view of the Coptic Church regarding those people?
So we have the same, like the Holy Bible is very clear about what is sin and what is not acceptable before God. But at the same time, we have many people who are struggling with these feelings, same-sex attraction, and we as a church are committed how to serve them.
Yeah, we don't reject them.
Right. We serve them. They're our children.
Yes.
And we extend love and pastoral care. At the same time, we don't condone and go as far as blessing a relationship.
Exactly. So you don't bless it, but you don't reject it.
Well, we accept the person, but we can't accept the relationship.
Okay.
And so that's why it's very delicate. What the Catholic Church had stated blurs the lines. It makes it more confusion for the people. And so that's why how to move forward. And thank God, I think in the last year, our church, we did many meetings, many discussions on different levels.
I attended once actually.
Yes,
it was very fruitful.
And the focus in this year has been how to serve them.
Of course.
So I think, God willing, we have a lot of work to do, whether it's for the clergy, for the servants, for the parents, and for those who are struggling with same-sex attraction. And this is the work that we have.
Okay, so we'll talk about ACT School, but first, that's why Mr. John Paul, the education now became like a panic and nightmare for millions of families inside the United States. And I know you have a very bright mind, and you are very creative. How we can help those families to have a very healthy education. So can you tell me about your idea, because it's like great idea.
Sure. Well, let's just think together logically. So there's about 20 million Coptic people in the world.
Okay.
Let's say that the people who are right now at the midpoint, so middle age, are going to maybe live 100 years, to make the math easy. That would mean there's about 4 million Coptic people in the world under 20 years of age. So in some form of schooling, let's say.
Correct.
Okay? So let's say that's a huge population. Okay? That's bigger than most school systems in the world. Let's put that on the side. Second thing, let's try to think, okay, what is the state of our people? We're in a state of diaspora, right? We're spread all over the earth. Okay? So if you take something and you spread it out, it can be easily diluted. We don't want to fall into that trap, I think. So I don't think we should try to be a little drop in a bucket of Australia or London or America or wherever our families happen to be. So it'll be a little bit better to aggregate some of those drops and keep them out of that bucket, because we can see that many societies around the world are going in really strange directions. And when we think about society or community, we have to understand human being is a social animal, lives in packs, lives in families, affected by others. Who especially is it affected by when it's young? Friends and peer pressure, and at some point maybe starts to rebel against parents. So if we step back, look at the big picture, and think, okay, our people have existed for thousands of years, and now we're living in diaspora conditions. We don't want to get diluted and become the environments where we happen to be. We want to control what we actually become. We can then start to think, okay, what influences a human being's life and their choices? No, a human being is born, has parents. That's the main influence. So maybe some advice on that front might be useful for your new parents. And then at some point, a person goes to school, has friends, spends the bulk of their time there, is trying to impress their friends, or the boys trying to impress the girls, and the girls trying to impress the other girls, their friends. So that's a pretty powerful force that is going to overcome a lot of parental influence a lot of times and lead to a lot of bad outcomes. So we should just control that variable. So instead of putting our kids everywhere around the world in polluted environments, whether it's public schools or I went to Catholic school, but obviously I'm quite concerned, and as Sayyidina was saying about recent developments, let's just say, especially the most recent one with, I believe, Pope Francis said, all religions lead to God a couple weeks ago. It's not something maybe we should be kind of just relying on, that other people will educate the kids, whether it's public school teachers or private school teachers or whatever teachers. Okay, that's one. And number two, we have to realize maybe it's not the teacher that's the most powerful influence. Maybe it's the friends. And I believe most of the psychiatric research shows that that's the most powerful influence, is actually the friend group of the kid. So how can you control that variable to set yourself up for success, to not leave the outcome of our people that have lived for thousands of years, their future trajectory, to just chance, or to maybe a pretty predictable outcome that we will be assimilated. So let's instead create our own community. Okay? So if you create a school system and kids are going to school with other Coptic kids from other Coptic families, there's a different value system. So you're selecting the friend group in an earlier step than leaving it to the kid who they end up being friends with and giving them a menu of friends that none of them may be good. Okay? And also, this way there's kind of a network effect of families supporting each other and of kids growing up. Mainly you keep your friends that you develop during schooling. It's pretty hard to develop friends as an adult. So usually that becomes kind of your life network and the biggest influence on your life. So that's a very powerful thing. And then even when they get out of school and they become professionals, to know each other as a positive. And you're going to get maybe higher rates of Coptic marriage. Okay, because they know more Coptic kids. They are around them.
Yeah, it's a good point. So yeah, actually, it was like a dream for a long, long time, and we need that dream to come true. Right. So Sayyidina, can you tell us how we can make the dream come true? I know he has a whole plan. His analyzation is amazing. I'm very astonished of what he said, but what do you think, Sayyidina?
So about 20 years ago, I had the opportunity to visit in Australia and the Coptic schools that they have there. Now, the system in Australia is a little bit different because the government, instead of having several private schools, they fund private schools, and they are able to have triple the number of schools, and the people are very
well.
They're doing well. And I remember His Holiness Pope Shenouda of blessed memory wanted this system to be in America and in Canada and in the rest of the world. Although the challenges are more difficult, we don't get funding from the government.
I'm not sure why, because the government funds a lot of projects and it's not important as this one.
Exactly. And around the same time, about 15, 20 years ago, the government started to open up how to fund private schools. But it's very difficult, very challenging. And there's organizations, right now they spend about over $6 billion in America funding private schools. But to get the access to that money is very difficult. What we saw since COVID is the push for homeschooling, also for private schools, hybrid schooling, as well as co-ops. And there's many different ways to structure this. There's also charter schools. And so I think we as a community looking into different options. So we start to encourage some parents to do homeschools, but at the same time we do need how to involve the church, so that if there are homeschool parents, that they can come to the church once a week, twice a week, either have tutoring, they also have activities with each other, and can have some courses that are offered in the church. And we have a lot of teachers in our community that are willing to offer that at different grade levels. So, but it needs some bright people and good servants able to coordinate, because it's very complicated, and to establish a school, one school, is very difficult. But we need in every area to have strong school system.
John Paul idea that it will be hybrid online, which can contain millions of people. So with your guidance and your blessing, Sayyidina, with Sayyidina al-Ambasarabium, I think we can do something great.
Yes.
I know you have appointment and you need to leave, but before you leave, we have 5 minutes more with you. Can you tell us about ACT School?
Sure. Thank God we received accreditation after 9 years and working many years. In July, so God willing, this is a big push forward for the school, and now we are expanding. We have new programs that we will start offering, as well as we're trying to increase the number of students and our faculty. So it's been, thank God, a very good year. There are still some people who are not aware of the school and what they're offering.
Can you give us the website, Sayyidina?
Yes, so it's actslibrary.org.
actslibrary.org.
And we hopefully, by the time this is aired in a few months, by the end of the year, we will be acts.edu.
Okay.
Because with accreditation, now we're able to have an edu, but there is a delay in the process. It takes them a long time to change this. So in the future, it will be easy, and you'll find the programs there. Now is a very good time to start thinking of it, so that they can start the next semester in January.
Yes. So Sayyidina, of course, you know, I have like maybe 25 to 30 questions I want to ask you. And I am very honored and happy and blessed that you are here.
Oh, it's my
But since you here and John Paul here, I want you to, he's helping the community like greatly. I want you to give him an advice on air.
Oh, but I think he has the perfect model. His father was one of the best leaders in our church, and we wish to have not just one, but 2, 10, 50 leaders like him. And he knows already this example, and he was really a support. I think he knows since even before ordination, he has a gift to encourage each one how to reach their full potential.
And I have a strong feeling, Mr. Navi, he transferred his gift to his son.
Yes. As we say for Elijah and Elisha, he asked for the double blessing. So God give him the direction and the wisdom how to follow and to give to the next generations what we received, and so that they can become leaders of this first generation, because the world is in need. More in need. This type of leadership, very rare, hard to find. No?
Thank you, Sayyidina.
So I will ask you to say something to Sayyidina, but Sayyidina first, how important to go to ACT school or any theological school?
I think right now we have the best Sunday school program probably in any church.
And what is the ages?
So the Sunday school usually finish by high school, college. But after that, every servant and parent, it will help either guide their children and in their service to go to the next level.
Yes, it affects our future and our life like...
Exactly, and how to be able to answer any question that we have, whether it's in work or in school or in
life in general,
right? Exactly. Okay. So this is a benefit for us, and how it leads for our salvation. So this is the main goal. We're reading in the Scripture, in the Fathers, in the Eucharist. All of this helps us for our salvation.
Jean Paul, what would you like to say to Sayyidina before he leaves?
Just a message of appreciation and thanks for all his support and his transforming of the entire Sunday school system and the curriculum and the million initiatives I know Sayyidina has on his plate. So just a message of thanks, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sayyidina.
Thank you.
I have lots of questions, but you promise you come back
God
with John
willing, God
Paul and
arrange,
to
God
see,
arrange.
because we'll talk me and John Paul about the school
Okay.
in the future and his vision. And I would like to send you the episode so you
Okay.
watch it and then you come again with us.
Of
okay?
course, God
So
arrange.
I see it's 5 exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sayyidina.
Thank you. God bless your work.
Thank you. Can you give a prayer for all the viewers, please?
Sure. May God have mercy upon us and bless us with every guidance through his kingdom, so that we may glorify his name in everything that we do and every place that we go.
Amin. Thank you for your guidance to us, Sayyidina.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you and we love you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, سيدنا.
Thank you.
أعزائنا المشاهدين ما تمشوش دقيقة ونص وهنكون معاكم تاني. سيدنا عنده مشوار مهم، شكرا طبعا لوقته، وهنقعد مع جون بول وهنتكلم في حاجات مهمة جدا، علشان دلوقتي في مشكلة كبيرة قوي في المدارس ومش عارفين نغير المشكلة دي. بنحاول وبنحارب وهم مصممين يدرسوا الأولاد حاجات مش كويسة. جون بول عنده فكر جديد خالص، وعايزين كلنا نساعده ونساعد نفسنا علشان نقدر نحافظ على أولادنا وعلى الجنريشن اللي جاية. خليكم معانا دقيقة ونص ونرجع لكم على طول. أعزائي المشاهدين رجعنا لكم تاني. شكرا على ان انتم موجودين معانا، ومعانا بنكمل مع جان بول وهو البريزيدنت اوف نبيه يوسف اسوسيشن، وبيعمل شغل كتير جدا جدا للكوميونتي. Thank you so much, Jean Paul, for being here. I know you came from like long distance. So I was talking to you about the nightmare the American and everyone in America live right now in the education, very like great corruption, and from president to president, perspective to perspective, we're going to lose our kids and our future. So what you have is a great idea. I told you it's very hard to happen, but you told me no, it's not hard. Can you tell us what's your idea and how we can proceed?
Sure. So in simple, if we don't like our environment, we can create our own environment.
Yes.
What is the main environment of a kid? It's their school. It's their friends. So we can control that by making our own. Okay, so how can we do that in a reasonable way, a quick way to actually make this happen? Well, how many people do you need who are world class at teaching algebra? Really one.
Okay.
Because the lessons can go online for free. Okay, so you need one teacher for algebra for millions of kids studying algebra. And then what else do you need? Well, you already own a ton of real estate around the world called churches that are used for 3 hours a week or 5 hours a week. So instead,
As a tutoring?
as a way for kids to have friendships, activities,
friendship and
sports,
activities. Okay,
that
got
kind of
it.
thing. Okay, so you need a teacher, you need some administrators to oversee things, okay, and then you already have the real estate to do a model where kids can, yes, get an education, but also get a friend group that's more optimal. Okay, so we can get education, but also we can get a value system that we prefer. And what do you need in addition to teachers and administrators? Is maybe some chaperones, some elderly people who are retired, or some high school kids to chaperone when the kids are playing soccer or backgammon or whatever they're doing as activities, okay? Or to oversee the kids to not be having no oversight. But you don't need some massive bureaucracy or massive infrastructure or to spend millions of dollars on real estate, okay? Because everybody experienced during the pandemic that remote learning can work. Now, maybe they don't need to do it at home. Maybe they can do it at church with a chaperone in the room so that the parents can go to work, so that the load is not all on the parents like during the pandemic. Okay? And also, we should be thinking about getting world-class education because it's quite doable. Like I said, okay, if you can find somebody who's very effective at teaching any concept, why not give millions of kids the access to that teacher in a scalable way over the internet? But not the kid is sitting in their bedroom and the parents have to be home from work, but instead in the church facilities, okay, that are sitting empty on a Tuesday afternoon, okay, or a Monday morning, okay? So this is a way to do it in a practical way that can happen and can happen at scale and give the kids a world-class education for not too much cost, and also a great value system to grow up in.
And reach everyone in the world, actually. They will be graduate from America even if they live in Africa.
90% of our people live in Africa. They live in Egypt.
Correct.
Are they getting a world-class education in a village in Upper Egypt? Maybe not.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's very doable because
100%.
if you think about it, the vast majority of our people either speak Arabic or English. So you only need 2 languages. Okay, and you can think about how to give parents now a choice, okay, and give them a chance that they never probably had to get a world-class education that may not be available where they happen to live, and a value system that may not be available in the country where they happen to live, and to control their destiny and not leave it to chance of the side around them or arguing with school administrators, which are not going to care, okay, or other parents who may have different standards for their kids.
Okay. So because I feel like some jealousy sometimes, like most of the Armenian, Jewish, Japanese, Chinese, Indian, they all have their own school, Catholic. They all have their own school, but not us. Like we have, but just very few. I know 2 in the actually southeast or something like that. I don't know. There is 2 in America. There is 1 in Australia, and the Sayyidina قال it's very successful. So بس ما فيش هنا. Like there is only I think 1 in California. It's like a model yet, but your idea will be like all over the world. So when we can proceed and what it takes you to proceed, and also we are as individual, how we can help you.
So I think we need human talent.
Human talent.
So we need some world-class educators.
Okay.
That's the main thing. And then we need some administrators. Okay, the first thing is to form a team. Always. Okay.
Of course.
Well, in any initiative. Okay, so you need people who buy in to the vision, care about the vision. Okay, and not doing it as a job. Okay, to start setting things up. Okay, but I also want to address the other kind of communities that you mentioned, because actually we have a much greater need, let's say, than the Chinese community or the Japanese community or even the Jewish community. Why do we have a much greater need? Because they're optimizing for worldly objectives. They want their kids to get a good job, make a lot of money, let's say. Okay, we're optimizing. Yeah, we want our kids to have a great education. Okay, but we also want them to maybe preserve a certain value system. So we have a much greater need than they do, because they're okay fitting into the society around them. They're just not okay maybe with the academic standards around them. We have 2 needs, so we have a much greater need. And the second one is much harder, let's say, okay, to do. Okay, so our need is pretty compelling. Okay, and you also talked about, okay, specifically the Jewish example. Okay, well, the Jewish people have been able to preserve their culture, let's say, for thousands of years. Pre-internet, pre-Zoom, pre-pandemic, teaching people they can work remotely. Okay? So how did they do that? They isolated their communities. They set up their own institutions, their own yeshiva schools, their own...
But we don't do that, right? We just...
Well, I'm just saying, let's see what worked historically.
What worked?
Are they not still kind of a community? They are.
They are.
How did that happen?
Very strong
Because they
community.
isolated themselves. They made their own cultural institutions. They were very tight-knit. So we can copy that model, but for our objectives, okay, and not for their objectives that they had, okay? So that's, I think, the model.
Okay, so we have 1 call, Mr. Atif, and let's go back to the model after that. Hello, Mr. Atif. Hello. اهلا وسهلا، اتفضل يا فندم.
لو سمحتي كان عندي سؤال.
معلش الصوت بيقطع خالص.
بقول لحضرتك سؤال ممكن تقدروا مقدم حضرتك بقالي 6 شهور والامتحان اي ورق وتحطهم قالوا لنا حضرتك بعتنا لك.
طيب معلش يا استاذ عاطف، انت بتتكلم على السيتيزن دلوقتي؟ طيب خليني اكلمك بعد الحلقه عشان احنا بنتكلم في موضوع تاني.
ما تتكلمش
ولا يهمك يا استاذ عاطف. سوري مستر جان بول. طيب دلوقتي حلو قوي، هم عندهم موديل وهم isolated themselves. That's why they are very successful and they can preserve their culture. And why we don't do that?
Yeah, we should do that. We should think about doing that. Okay, so I'm proposing to, let's say, the community that we think about, okay, what are the elements of that? Okay, we have church, and we meet some people at church, and we spend Sunday mornings at church. But we spend the vast majority of our time, let's say, in our first 20 years of life, with our friends and at school, and thinking about school things, and school activities, and all that kind of stuff. So if we don't really do that, we're not even really having any chance of succeeding. Okay, if you want to get an outcome, you cannot really just assume it'll happen randomly. I mean, like in our businesses, let's say, when we care about an outcome, we actually strategize to get there. We make sure that, okay, is what I'm doing going to have a high likelihood of getting that outcome? So we have to think, okay, is that business outcome more valuable to us than the other outcome, like our fate of our children? It probably isn't. So we can't leave it to a strategy that's probably likely to fail. We need to have some kind of proactive thinking about what is a strategy that's likely to have a high odds of succeeding, and do that. That's all. Simple thinking. That's all we need.
Yes, مظبوط. طيب بقى how we can proceed لازم نعمل تيم الأول قلت لي. مظبوط؟ وبعد التيم احنا كانديفيدوال لازم نعمل ايه؟
I think what we need is to start to absorb the fact that we can't just be passive and assume that we will not become what we see around us. Our kids will not be. They will be. So we have to kind of understand this is pretty important, okay? And we need to start organizing a little bit of our community, okay, to support something like this type of an effort, okay, to see, okay, how can we identify, like I mentioned, some world-class educators and some people with some administrative experience in the field of education, okay, to start formulating the actual initial steps, which are things probably relating to accreditation, creating a plan, organizing things, okay? And then I think the next step would be showing parents that this is high-end education. This is not something where you should expect maybe your kids to be undisciplined, okay, because that would be counterproductive. That's the opposite. We're not going to basically recreate the public school system. We're trying to do something very different.
Something very unique.
Yeah. So that means you should probably expect that, okay, my kid is going to be challenged behaviorally, because we talked about values, and educationally. Okay, so we have to kind of maybe shift a little bit our thinking to assume that, okay, and to understand not everything will be tolerated, because if we do that, we'll be like the society we're, living in, which is basically tolerating everything and having basically no standards. Whether academic standards at this point, they got rid of even the SAT to get into college because they don't like standards in education, okay? And let alone behavioral standards, they believe in moral relativity, that there is no such thing as right or wrong. So we're going to have to be understanding that we need the almost exact opposite, okay? We need standards, we need discipline, okay? And we need people who buy into the fact that that is what builds a strong community. It's strong individuals who are disciplined, who have high standards in their behavior and in their education.
Okay. Okay, so any community in the journey to be powerful, they have to get together and be united. I know you are a very powerful in your own, but we need to be all together. So what is the message you're sending to everyone right now so we can all start doing this step?
So I'm just thinking with logic. And everybody can do the same as me. There's no difference, okay? I think everybody can see the problem and maybe a potential solution, or maybe a better solution than the one I'm thinking of, okay? So what we need to start doing is maybe getting our heads together, coming up with a plan, because a plan is better than no plan, better than doing nothing and seeing another school year start, okay? And also, just to put it out there as an idea, okay, I think it might be a good idea to start something small, maybe from maybe earlier on, so parents can see, okay, what does it look like, okay? And then maybe roll things out on a wider scale for maybe a new school year, okay? Because almost every Coptic community is suffering with the same exact thing around the earth. So we do have to kind of move a little bit quickly. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're adhering to some very high standards.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what we need to do, I think, as a community is maybe create some kind of a forum where people buy into this and have some, relevant skills or know somebody who is really world class at this type of thing, okay, can start getting together and discussing and planning and going fairly quickly, okay? Because every year that you wait and you miss a school year, you're pretty much losing maybe a little bit of a generation. So the consequences are very high.
Yeah,
right?
This was my second question. If we keep the situation as is, and we feel like we are, our hand is very tight, what's going to happen tomorrow? If we did not act quickly.
Yeah, very predictable. I mean, we can just look at any society where people live. So we're right now in California. Okay, so we can just look at the statistics of anything you like, of drug use, of depression, of atheism. Pick the statistic you want. Okay, I mean, that's the society we're living in. So if we're a little drop in a bucket, like I said, we're going to be diluted. Eventually we'll become more and more like our environment.
Correct.
So we have to create our own environment, and it's pretty doable.
Very, very true.
Yeah. If any of us had a business problem, we would do something effective about it, right?
صحيح.
So we need to kind of run it that way. We have to have some objective that we are pretty committed to achieving and proactively go for it. Okay? We cannot be everybody in their own struggle, arguing with their own teachers, their own school administrators, and getting nowhere because you have no leverage on them, and they have maybe a different value system than you completely. Okay? And you're going to just lose your kids.
Eventually you will lose your kids. Everyone is busy with his life, and they just want to leave the kids somewhere and go. Which is right now, it truly, we all feel it. It becomes like a nightmare. So I wish if we can act quickly and start something together. But can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, because you are very well known, but for those people who the first time they see you, so what is your background?
So I'm not too important to this, okay, but my background is, let's see, I'm a corporate lawyer, so I practice at O'Melveny and Myers, mergers and acquisitions law, so helping, one big bank buy some other bank and do those type of business deals. And then, I really was always interested in investing, and I moved into, being more of a full-time professional investor. And so that's really kind of my main focus, obviously. And then I run a well-known structural engineering firm called NYA, or Nabi Yusuf and Associates. We do a lot of projects around the world that you probably see on the news and things like that. So I do a lot of things, but there's a lot of commonality, okay, between them. Okay, you need a high-performing team that emotionally cares about the mission. Okay, and then you need some resources, and you need a problem to solve. So in this situation, we have a critical problem.
Yes.
We have parents who early on, when the kid is under their control, has no autonomy, everything's going great. And then as the kid gets a little older, has the ability to make their own choices, the parents get to a little bit more desperate because maybe they don't agree with a lot of those choices. Okay, so we have a significant problem to address. And we have a humongous amount of human talent in the Egyptian Coptic community. Okay, one of the most capable and successful communities there is. Okay, so we have the human talent. We tend to care about our community. Okay, so you have people who are talented, who are interested, care about the mission, and a core problem to solve. Okay, and a lot of resources. Okay, so this is very doable thing.
صحيح.
Yeah.
يعني we're very lucky يعني ان احنا عندنا a bright mind بيفكر في حاجه زي كده. ال situation is not the best thing right now, especially مع الchanging بتاع الرؤساء بتوع امريكا، وكل واحد عنده راي، ديمقراط عنده راي وريبابليكان عنده راي، واحنا اولادنا هي اللي بتتوه في النص واحنا مش عارفين نعمل اي حاجه. فان احنا نفكر في حاجه زي كده او انت تفكر في حاجه زي كده it's amazing، وهتبقى موجوده اونلاين ل millions of people. أهمية إن إحنا نحط ال spiritual aspect in our education system. It's very important. ممكن تقول لنا أنت شايفها إزاي؟
Yeah, sure. So how can you do that? The only way to do that is to have control of your education system.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Otherwise, you will have no chance. Okay. You know what the public school system maybe looks like. I went to 5 different Catholic schools growing up, all the best ones. Okay, where the famous people's kids go. I don't think I learned very much spiritual. Okay, I took classes there in comparative religion and random topics. Didn't really affect my spiritual life, maybe. Okay, maybe it was a little bit better community, but not much. Mainly people are sending their kids to Catholic schools because it's better education. Okay, not because the family is necessarily bought into the spiritual focus of that they imagine the school will have. So the only way for us to give any chance for kids to have some kind of spiritual life in basically atheist or agnostic culture is to do kind of something like what I'm proposing of our own community. Okay, human beings are influenced especially when they're young, by peer pressure, wanting to fit in, wanting to be popular, wanting to be liked. Okay, so we have to be realistic. Otherwise, you're going to have all those same problems as the other kids.
Yes. واكتيفيتي واي زي ما طبعا مستر جون بول قال في النادي وفي التشيرشز وهم بيعملوا كل الاكتيفيتيز، فاعتقد ان دي هتكون من اجمل الحاجات اللي ممكن احنا نعملها، ان احنا we support you and we are waiting. I know it's a long process, I know it's very complicated, but I know you have the vision and we are with you.
I'm not sure it needs to be so long. I think we have to move quickly. I think we just need smart, talented people. Maybe we should set up some kind of online community of people to start getting the ball rolling, of putting some good brains together.
Apply.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. People with some experience in getting schools accredited in education administration and world-class educators. That's the first step. Okay. Resources can be provided. Okay, and these people I think will be bought into the mission, and I think maybe the best idea would be some kind of proof of concept at a smaller scale, maybe in January, and then a full rollout maybe for the new school year, something like that. Okay, I think this is probably a good path.
And the accreditation will be very easy, I would say. The paperwork and everything with the government. Hopefully, Sayedna, maybe he can help us.
Yeah, they have a lot of experience at ACTS.
Exactly.
They went through, we observed them for many years going through this process, so they have a lot of experience with it, and many people, I think, can help us. And also, in different places, it may be pretty straightforward, pretty quick. Okay, and also keep in mind, we're not talking about buying some school in a physical building and going through zoning and giving
this is
local
millions and millions of dollars. We're not
and not only that, you're giving local politicians power over you. Okay, real estate is stuck in the ground. When you do that, you're now in control of zoning officials, county officials, city officials, state officials. You're in a never-ending circle. Okay, I think we probably want to skip a lot of this type of stuff. So we need to find some kind of flexible situation where we can avoid a lot of this endless bureaucracy of regulation.
And the result of these online schools are like 100% like any other school, but as you said, the bar is higher even.
Yeah, we can do whatever we like. Okay, so if our people are, caring about the education of our kids, okay, I see no reason why this cannot be world-class education. Okay, and give kids who would never have that chance that opportunity, because you don't have additional incremental costs from a new student if you are having one algebra teacher, okay, and a chaperone in the room just to make sure the kids are, orderly, okay, because you don't need now all this massive money for real estate and insurance and a million teachers and a million administrators and all this, that happens. Okay, and this is also important to understand. Okay, why is education so expensive? For example, at the good high schools these days, where they're paying $30,000 and $60,000 tuitions. Okay, or at the colleges where the tuitions are so absorbent. Okay, because the ratio of teacher to administrator has gone hugely in the direction of administrators the last few decades. Okay, so that's why you look at a campus university and you say they've owned the real estate for 50 years. Why is they need so much tuition from so many students to barely, make it? It's because of the massive amount of administrators. One, okay? So you don't need this level of bureaucracy. You need to focus on actual substance education, not all this nonsense stuff that a lot of these folks do of making work for themselves. The other thing to understand is most universities these days are really endowments tied to some educational activity. Okay, the main activity is the endowment. This is where all their focus is, all the money is, that kind of stuff. Okay, so you don't really need that kind of a model. Okay, you don't need to raise billions of dollars, okay, to hire an algebra teacher and put their lessons online, and some administrators and some chaperones who are either retired, like I mentioned, or in high school, and using church facilities that are sitting empty 90% of the week. Okay, you don't need to turn this into something to create jobs for administrators. You need to turn this into something to achieve our two objectives: world-class education and a value system that we choose. That's all you need to do.
صحيح. So I'm very optimistic after like all the information you give, and I think we're going to see something very special very soon. You are like managing a huge company. How important for business, small business or big companies, to hire people for a scholarship?
Oh, well, let me tell you something. There's a huge shortage, okay, of capable people in the United States. Okay, there's a huge shortage
in terms of what?
Of a workforce in the United States. Every company will tell you, every employer will tell you, they have a hard time finding great talent or maybe keeping great talent.
And where is the problem here? Like, why?
The problem here is probably multifold. Okay, so let's say on kind of lower income positions, there's a lot of competition with free government programs, which make it harder for those type of employers, okay, to compete. Okay, there's other variables too, though, like maybe some Americans are a little bit disillusioned, okay, because obviously there's been a pretty big shift in returns more towards capital than towards labor, maybe since the financial crisis in 2008, because the government intervened and took interest rates to zero and caused financial assets to keep levitating, including house prices and everything, and incomes didn't keep pace. Maybe they had to do so to preserve the financial system, but there was consequences. So when people's incomes didn't keep up, people a little bit became maybe disillusioned as far as the American dream, and really working hard and investing in themselves that they're going to keep progressing and live a great life. Americans used to have one person in the household working and be able to support an entire family and buy a house and everything else. That's not really the current situation. Okay, and it's a lot of it has to do with some of those variables that I just mentioned. Okay, so there's a lot of issues happening, let's say, in American society. Okay. But in the end, okay, if you can also think about strengthening our community in terms of just having greater talent within our community, that's a benefit. We have stronger families with better incomes that are more stable, better church communities, okay? People can network with each other, okay? People are proud of their own community. They see other successful Coptic people, you tend to want to replicate that. Okay, that's one of the biggest variables. Okay, usually it's very hard for somebody to do something if they feel like, oh, I can't do that. They need to see a lot of times somebody that looks like them from their kind of background do it first and feel like, oh, I can do that.
Yes, of course. Yes, طبعا. عشان كده we have to set an example to each other. Very important question, since you are here and you are, I know you're a financial advisor, right?
I'm a professional investor.
You're a professional investor, and one main subject, every person comes to the United States dream to have his own small business, and we struggle a lot. We stay like years thinking and trying and fail. So what is the most important advice you can give to someone struggling or dreaming to start a small business?
Sure. Okay, so a couple of things important to understand. First of all, the most important variables in being effective in business are your soft skills. So your ability, let's say, to persuade. Because what are you doing in business? You're persuading people to join you on your mission, like we talked about, and you're persuading customers to buy from you.
Okay.
So your communication skills, your persuasive skills are very important. A lot of times people who are not super experienced in business think, oh, well, I'm just good at my craft, that's good enough. Oh, the person who provides the best value will win. That's not the way the world works. The way the world works is the person that's providing the best perceived value wins, not the best value. So if you can't communicate that value, people don't understand that value, whether you're employees or your customers, you're not going to succeed. Okay, so you need to lay out a vision for your employees, something that gives them a good future, something they're emotionally invested in, and you need to solve a problem for your customers and communicate that you can solve that problem. So that's one thing to understand. Secondly, understand. You mentioned, oh, we think a lot and and well, actually,
we try a lot, we feel a lot.
I'll tell you something, okay? On any life problem, okay, where there's many variables involved in the decision, and the variables are very uncertain, you can't think your way through to the solution. The only way to do it is to iterate, to try things and get more data, get more experience to end up with a solution. So you are going to try many things in business till you find what works. Okay?
I know, but
that's the way.
But sometimes we are very afraid to take the step or the chance, and we lose what we have in our hand.
So one very smart business concept or strategy is about trying things as fast and as cheaply as possible. You want to do a lot of tests that don't cost you much in time or money to see what works. You want to fail quickly, they say. You want to try things and check them off the list to fail quickly to end up eventually finding something that works. Okay, then you double down on what works.
So failing is not the end of the world. We can try how many times?
Anytime you like. So one of the biggest reasons why American business society, let's say, is much more successful than in many other parts of the world is, in America, we don't really have too much shame. A business failure, we have more guilt. Okay? Shame and guilt are very different. Shame is pretty bad for you. Guilt is actually pretty good for you. Because guilt means I did something wrong, I need to do something different. Now I'm more motivated to do it again. Shame is I'm not such a good person, I'm less capable, I'm less likely to try again in a different way. Okay? So in, let's say, Silicon Valley, there's a startup society up there, an whole ecosystem of investors and entrepreneurs. Most founders fail. Most actually investments by the very sophisticated venture capital firms that fund these kind of startups, they're assuming 90-95% of their investments will go to zero. But the remaining 5%, because they're startups, will maybe go 10x, 50x, and pay for the whole portfolio. So they don't have any embarrassment, even though they're very capable, very famous investors, that many of their investments are total failures. And the same thing with the founders. Nobody looks at the founders who failed as failures, because most new businesses will fail. So in America, we don't have too much of a shame attitude towards business failure. Okay? In most of the rest of the world, there is more of that attitude. So if you want to be succeeding in business, you have to think a little bit that way. Okay? Maybe what I did didn't work, but if I do it a different way, it could work. Another way of understanding this concept is something that's pretty useful, which is been found to be kind of a big differentiator between success and failure, which is basically called growth mindset versus fixed mindset. What does this mean? This just means, how is the person defining to themselves intelligence? Do you define your intelligence to yourself as something fixed or something variable? It can grow, it can change. Why is this super important? Because when you define your intelligence as fixed, if you make a mistake, if you have a failure, change it. No, you can change it. That means your entire self-worth is lower. You're a less good person. Okay, if it's a variable thing, your intelligence, your capabilities, and you have a failure, you make a mistake, you think, I maybe don't know how to do it now, but I maybe know how to do it in the future.
Or maybe change it so you can do, like you remind me with Albert Einstein when he said, everyone is genius, but you cannot judge the fish that they cannot climb the mountain. So يعني شوف الحاجة اللي انت تعرف تعملها واعملها، ممكن تكون انت بتجرب في حتة مش بتاعتك.
Yeah. Well, there's a million things you can do. You can learn from others. You can try a different way. But this is only if you still have the morale to do so. So if you strip yourself of that, you're not going to succeed. If you start to worry, what are people going to think about me? What am I as a person?
Exactly.
Okay, you're never going to make it.
Because we sometimes lose motivation after a few trials.
Okay. Yeah, motivation is mostly not very useful. What you need to do really is act despite your feelings. Okay, you need discipline. Okay, so on any kind of small feeling, you generally want to ignore the small feeling.
So yes, put it on side. Yeah.
Any big feeling, you want to process that feeling. It may give you some important information. You have your feelings for a reason. They may tell you, oh, there's a danger, there's a problem, so I need to think about it. Why am I feeling that way? What if it's a small feeling? Oh, I don't want to get up out of bed right now. I need to ignore that feeling and not be emotional right now and act despite my feelings.
Correct. Mr. John Paul, I'm enjoying the conversation very, very, very much.
Thank you.
And I know you have like a bit of driving to do. Thank you so much for being here today. And we will follow up with you and with Sayedna علشان نشوف where is the school like going. And you said maybe next year?
We'll see.
We'll see, right? Yeah. So أشكرك جدا جدا على اهتمامك. دايما بتلبي الطلب وتجيلنا. And hopefully we see you soon.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. عندك أي كلمة تقولها للفاميليز اللي بيشوفونا؟
Be encouraged. The problems are very solvable.
Amazing. خليكم دايما متشجعين ان كل المشاكل بتتحل. اجمل كلمه النهارده نقفل بيها الحلقه، كل مشاكلكم يا رب تتحل، ربنا يحافظ عليكم على بيوتكم. المشكله دلوقتي ان احنا عمالين نفايت مع السكولز انهم يغيروا الحاجات اللي بيدوها للاولاد والحاجات اللي بيقولوها لها، واحنا مش عارفين نغير الموضوع ده. هنقعد نحارب ونجيب ونعمل ونروح ونيجي، بس الموضوع دلوقتي ان احنا زي ما هو قال مستر جون بول نكرييت اور اون انفايرمنت عشان محدش يتحكم في اولادنا ولا في مستقبلنا ولا فينا. فاتمنى ان الحلقه دي تكمل وسيدنا الانبا كيرلس يكون معانا تاني ومستر جون بول يكون معانا تاني، وناس عندهم برايت مايندز نقدر نساعد ونقدر نكمل في المدرسه دي ونعمل المدرسه دي عشان خاطر اولادنا. بشكركم جدا، ربنا يفرحكم ويساعدكم ويكون في بيوتكم دايما خير، واي مشكله بتتحل زي مستر جون بول قال. ربنا يحافظ عليكم واشوفكم في حلقات جايه من اسأل مع ميرا. باي باي.